Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. Behind me is 51 Gordon Square, London, wherein resided Lytton Strachey. So, Lytton Strachey was born in 1880 into a well-to-do British family, but he was a sickly youth, eccentric, effeminate, and very bookish. So he was mainly educated by private tutors. He then went to Cambridge University and he cut his teeth as a litterateur. Perhaps his best known work is Eminent Victorians, in which he skewered the reputation of various people who were almost household gods of polite society. People like Florence Nightingale, Lord Tennyson, Charles Dickens and so on, and he felt they're very much overrated and they were not quite as admirable as most people held them to be. So he questioned a lot of social mores at the time. He felt it was very rigid, very puritanical, a deeply hypocritical society. So as you can imagine, he didn't go down well with those of a conservative cast of mind. He was also a limp-wristed homosexualist. Then the First World War came along and he declared himself to be a conscientious objector. That it outraged his conscience, the idea of taking life, that he was not going to kill a man or just who happened to be in a different nationality, who happened to be forced into a different uniform from himself. He had no wish to wear a British Army uniform or German Army uniform or any army uniform. It was against uniformity and regimentation in the broadest sense. So he had to go before a board of army officers who were all innately unsympathetic to the notion of pacifism. And these boards would often ask what someone's grounds were for saying they wouldn't fight. If they were for socialist reasons, saying, you know, a rifle with a bayonet has a worker at both ends of it. It's a war fought by the rich, it's the slaughter of the working class, it's to enrich the capitalist class. They were going to dismiss that out of hand. We're saying, I'm not against fighting per se, but against this particular war. I'd fight in a just war. This war is an unjust war. No, they would have no truck with that because it's not an individual's decision. It's not up to you as an individual to determine whether this war is legally and morally justified. That's for the government to decide. And if the government orders you to fight, you must do so. If you said you had religious reasons, and virtually everybody is a Christian, that one they would give a fair hearing to that one. They say, you're a man of God, are you? All right. Name 12 apostles. And if you couldn't do it, then your claim to have a religious objection would cut little ice to say, all right, tell me all the books of the Bible in order, including the deuterocanonical ones. And if you didn't know all your apocrypha and that, well, then you were straight to the army. So some people agreed to serve as stretcher bearers, as in going forth into no man's land to bring back the wounded on a stretcher, and obviously that was very risky. They could easily be shot dead. You're wearing a British Army uniform. Okay, you weren't carrying a rifle, but the enemy wouldn't necessarily see that or might not care, saying, well, you're still going to save somebody's life, and then he'll come and kill me tomorrow, so no. And remember, these stretcher bearers were going forward with no gun, as in no means to defend themselves, so they did run great risks. But anyway, Lytton Strachey, well, one of the army officers thought they had a way to put it to him, saying, supposing a German Uhlan tried to rape your sister. An Uhlan was a cavalry soldier. So what would you do? Would you not fight even in that situation if a German Uhlan tried to rape your sister? And Strachey said, I would attempt to interpose myself, as in to place his body in between his sister and that of the German soldier. And of course the army officers turned their faces away in disgust, thinking because he would quite enjoy it if this German chap were to do that to him. Well, that is Lytton Strachey, who died all too young in only 1930. So this is where many of the Bloomsbury set lived around here. This area of London is called Bloomsbury. There's Bloomsbury Square not too far away. So that was an intellectual and artistic movement of the early 20th century, the first half of it. And they embraced every liberal and left-wing cause you can name. Things which are now mainstream, like racial equality, completely uncontroversial now, gender equality, equality before law for homosexuals, things like that, or decolonization, or free access to contraception, or the end of censorship, many things like that. And so, I'm trying to think who else would have been around here. Virginia Woolf, George Bernard Shaw, Yeats wasn't too far away, the Sitwells, on and on. Names too numerous to mention, and many of them lived around here, the Bloomsbury area. That's enough on Lytton Strachey.